Thank you, Glenn, and good morning, dear audience. For the subject of today, applied visual art, I have at least 4 different perspectives to look at. At first, teaching and researching visual art in the Science and Art University of Lapland forced you to ask that how this interaction between artistic work and research can somehow support increase in understanding of northern reality and cultures. As a part of university networks, we are asking that what are the creative connections between productive visual art, research of art history, research of cultural history, anthropology, ethnography, humanistic geography, education, of course, social sciences, and sometimes even political research. The second perspective for this question about what is applied art here in North is much more practical. So the new Institution for Northern Culture profile highlight practical professional education in all levels in the field of art, from vocational school to university. But also practical regional development work. So that perspective is much more practical and, let me say, local. As the director of the institution, I have a big interest now also for these pedagogical issues of dealing with art. And I'm asking that how contemporary art should be taught and learned, and what are these kind of innovative learning environments of contemporary art of today. Okay. But the third perspective is my own art, and my opinions are strongly influenced, of course, by my own art and experiences of environmental and community art. I have done most of my artist production in Socio-cultural North, in close connection to landscape and nature, but also for local culture and also for a group of indigenous people of this northern area. So that is my practical understanding. But finally, besides this academic and research of art, I'm also a local man living here in Lapland and fishing and hunting and cutting forest with my chainsaw as others here, working a lot in nature. I'm coming from almost a neighbor village from the Inari, some little bit more than 100 kilometers behind the forest to southwest from here. So my family have both Finnish and Sami roots, and my relatives have all the time lived in northern Sweden, Norway, and Finland, and even Russia. So I have learned somehow to understand this northern Scandinavia as a region of my home. And so the north has a big part. North is a big part of my private identity, and history of the North has always been inspiration for me. So this is about the background, but the topic of the day is this applied visual art. And that's one of the development priorities of the new Institution for Northern Culture. But let us already that what actually is applied art. Soveltava kuvataide in Finnish. Do we share the same understanding of the concept? What is it for? Who needs that kind of art? I think that in this moment the concept and meaning of applied art is still like it was in history, in the end of 19th century, when applied art was connected to craft and handicraft-based design, often glass, ceramic, wood, metal, and so on. Later, graphic design, digital media design, all kind of visualization is often understood as a part of applied art. But that's not the point we are looking when we started to work under the concept of applied art in Northern Cultural Institutes. And actually we need to ask now that what is the art of today? What is the art of 21st century? Can we think about a new generation or new type of applied arts? We can also ask if there is some special characteristic or challenges of applied art in the North. First, in order to situate this improvement needs of applied art in the North in a little bit broader context, I'd like to point some changes that has happened in art recently. As we know, this kind of traditional Western modernist art, as well as design and architecture, were considered to be quite a local phenomenon. And work of art was understood to universal and independent from other sector of, for example, local issues. Actually, all Western art school, art and design universities, had approximately the same kind of curriculum and the same kind of teaching method in use until last years. And we also understand the phenomenon art very often as a phenomenon that is radiating from center to periphery, like from New York to Europe and London to Helsinki, and finally from Helsinki to Inari. And later on we can say that from this perspective that there is a little bit of smack of colonialism in that idea of Western art. But the last 20th century art has inspired a very different type of thinking, a new way of thinking, which emphasizes temporal, ecological, environmental, social, and local ties of art. And that we can see also in curriculums in art universities. So nowadays, the contemporary art is very often it's situational, contextual, and it's more and more widely known that art is a resource not only for individual but also for the whole society. And that's the way that we can think and talk about the new generation of applied art in its social meaning. And because it's the kind of project-based nature of financing nowadays in EU, we need also a lot of new type of collaboration skills. And it's new type of education for art, but also new type of research for art. And this new way of thinking for us to shows new methods for artistic activities, but also in education and research. And that's the point that we were aiming to find some new way of thinking through that concept. I say that to make changes in artistic education towards this new generation of applied art has not been easy, because artists and designers have always been trained to think that they are themselves free. But the challenge of applied art is dealing with other people's freedom and knowledge as well, and that's the point, that how to put these together. One thing we here in North, we need to also to understand that the relationship of modern art and indigenous cultures and this kind of colonialist nature of modern Western art also became a target of critical examination. But some researchers have paid attention also to the positive encounter between locality, indigenous cultures and contemporary art. Especially Lucy Lippard has emphasized the psychosocial dimension of being bound to the certain location and places through contemporary art. So contemporary art, environmental art, community art underline these kind of links of new type of art to connection to people's daily activities, events and places. So this kind of attitude brings art near principle of social cultural animation, participating environmental planning, co-design methods. And actually here in Lapland, new generation of Lapland arts, which is interesting people everyday lives, has been successfully applied to regional development works already. For example, to dealing with the social situation among the young people in villages, or finding tools for promoting psychosocial well-being with elderly people. Contemporary applied art has also seen a part of development work for new kind of creative industries. Economic aspect of applied arts are highlighted mainly in cooperation with cultural tourism, like forest trails and of course one of the most important things is snow and ice architecture and winter art, as we call it. Sustainable development is important, for my opinion. It's very often connected only to ecological issues, like climate change. But according to UNESCO generally approved definition, the concept means also social, cultural and economic aspect. We all know that these circumstances around us are very unique. And we can meet here in the north the same kind of global environmental issues, social, political, economic, intercultural questions as in other places around the world. And I would like to understand this situation in north as a microcosmos of forces which are typical now, especially in all partially populated areas in the world. When the urban way of life meet rural, global meet local, old meet the new one, and in a multi-ethnic, multicultural situation. So I like to understand this north as a laboratory for cultural encounters in positive and productive way. Generally, the northern region is still living in a little bit post-colonial situation. At the same time, northern region is still living in very close connection to the nature. And the relationship to the nature is a big part of people's identity. And in more villages in north, indigenous group of people have a great, big impact of their local culture and the whole area. And that means also that in this rapid change of north, we need also to put attention to human political rights here in north. And that post-colonial, multi-ethnic, social-cultural situation makes certain challenges, of course. And it needs cultural sensitivity. It needs understanding of the social-cultural situation before we start to work with applied arts in this region. There has been just kind of critical attention to cultural encounters in North in a way that Western culture, both art and education, has dominated an idea from the era of enlightenment, that expansion of new cultural phenomena, like new style of art, is always a progress. But as we know that in UNESCO and European Council also, there has been rising criticism against this idea of cultural transmission. And that is a way that we really hope that we understand the culture which is around which is living here around the Arctic, not only in this Scandinavian north. One good example is this question about Sami visual art. There is no concept of art or art in a way that we understand in Western culture. But Sami handicraft or art or duochi, as they say, would be a good example of a sustainable way of thinking. How this applied art is connected to culture and the environment and social sector of life. But it's interesting also that contemporary art has empowered Sami artists to tell about their own experiences from inside culture, from their own culture. And it's a question that culture is changing all the time. And the major question is that is applied visual art able to support cultural sustainability in North and generate it all the time, at the same time? That's the question all over the northern countries. My own art, I have been working in the landscape. But when I'm working as a landscape, I'm not an environmental artist in a way. There's a big meaning of the landscape to local people, villagers, nations, and it's even a political question here. We can speak about this phenomenon of ethnographical landscape of North. It's almost a paradigm, or at least a big research interest in the field of university researchers who are now dealing with North in all circumpolar. I feel that my applied art working in the landscape is a such kind of learning situation for me about the culture. But it's also a part of my research, let me say practice-led research ideas, that how we open the culture and teach us to be culture sensitive through working with art in this local area. This is a monument of old church memorial, but it's also at the same time a memorial for vanished, destroyed Kemi Sami village in India. Just a nice atmosphere of these working methods in the landscape. I feel it. This is a basic cultural work I'm doing. Winter art has been one big development project under the concept of applied art. And that's the point that we have put together this local knowledge, this hunter knowledge, indigenous knowledge, to engineering knowledge, to prove that it's possible to use and build in the safe way. And to try to find a solution that how we respect this kind of land culture, social situation, environmental issues. Just to show you shortly some examples which is made by Dr. Mirja Hiltunen through this artistic action research project in Utsjoki. You can see it's a social atmosphere of working with snow and ice in a village in Utsjoki, in Sami village, where all the society of the village is creating new type of art, which is based on the stories and beliefs and narratives of the village. So they are producing an art event for themselves, for the village, celebrating their own culture. Actually, we have produced a lot of different type of cultural-based event here in Lapland through this action research type of artistic working, taking out the culture behind, putting the social aspect for work. But one of the main, if we go to the creative industry, one of the things today is of course this winter art. Actually, this process we started 10 years ago is produced now a lot of companies, a lot of artists who are working in this field. Several companies in Finland are producing today some kind of winter art things, and they are exporting this to Canada, Europe, Russia. It's one of the biggest industries that is started 10 years ago. when we started to educate unemployed people to work in this field, those who have already skills to use tractors and chainsaws, things like that. And that has opened a new way of thinking with also this art as a part of cultural tourism. But about the economy. A couple of years ago we made a big work planning a totally new type, cultural, sensitive, local-based, social-based art, winter art event to Jokela, to Levi area. And we put a lot of attention to build that plan. We made a good plan. They ordered it, but they didn't order the production. And today there is icing made by Chinese. Without any cultural aspect, any social sensitive aspect to the locals. It's a local economy. And I heard that the salaries for these 100 Chinese snow and ice carvers was 40 cents per hour. That's an economy. But we must go on. I still believe the power of this interaction of contemporary art, ethnographical research, and another culture. And I really hope that today the discussion will go on and we share our experiences and knowledge from creative industry and applied arts during the day. And I like to make a conclusion using these Stuart Hall words, because these words have very often carried me to think about that we have some reason to put our own culture and contemporary art together. But, thank you.